We got a bidet!
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're talking about the latest episode of The Bad Batch. I'm trying to keep track of my episodes. I think it's episode 10, somewhere along those lines.
9 or 10, something like that.
Yeah, because I think we got 7 and 8 together, and then last week was 9, and now we're at 10. And we're coming off of a cliffhanger. Like last week, we got, our 20-minute episode, whatever, and we did not finish that arc. So we get to finish that arc in this episode. So it was a two-parter. It wasn't necessarily like a 3 or 4-parter. So we're just going to talk about what happened, like what happened to finish off where we left off, and then talk about our thoughts on the episode. So we're just going to dive right in. So last week we left the Bad Batch with no ship. They had their ship stolen while they were trying to do a mission for Sid, and now they're kind of wondering, well, we're stuck here now. How do we get out? How do we leave? And essentially what we get in this episode is they want to be able to track down their ship. And they're trying to think of, how can we do that? We don't know where it went, and they don't know, who stole it, how threatening they could be. And Omega has the bright idea to track their Gonk droid. I think they think she calls it Gonky. So she tries to locate its coordinates so that they can, set off on foot and find out where their ship is. And what we find out is that the ship was stolen by a kid. His name is Benny, and he works in a Ipsium like mining type place. And it's run by a guy named, is it Moko? Is that what his name
Mako.
is? Mako. Mako is like the head honcho. He is at least I don't remember his species in Star Wars. He reminds me of orcs or Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings. Or if you've played Disney Infinity, the Green Goblin sculpture that they used for his character. He looked very similar to them. But basically, he's in charge of this mine where they are gathering Ipsium, and the children that he is watching over and employing, so to speak, he's making them believe that, with what they're mining, that they are barely getting by, and, everybody has to have rations for food, and they get a very small amount of water. And it's to the point where if you are like the number one person, I can't remember if it was like of the day or of the week or what it was, but
Top earner, yeah.
top earner,
Yeah.
then you got your own bowl of soup, which was kind of nice. And if you weren't
That is kind of nice.
yeah, it is kind of nice. If you don't be the top earner, then you have to fight over a bowl of soup, which is awful. I can't imagine being in those working conditions. So that kind of paints the picture that, not only are the employees neglected, because we see Mako like eating a feast during part of the episode. So we
In
know,
hiding.
yeah, he's been taken care of, but he's not sharing what he should be with all the others, which gets good in a little bit. So the Bad Batch track down where Gonky is and leads them to this facility, and they are sneaking their way in, and they eventually come across Benny. And turns out that Benny's only reward for stealing this really nice ship was that he got to keep Gonky. And, you know,
And he got some water, right?
yeah, Well, I'm more or less saying like he didn't get some like huge high
Oh,
praise
right.
over, getting something pretty significant. He was probably the top earner at some point because he got this ship. Um, I don't think he was in this episode per se, but
He had hoped that it would make him top earner, but the other kid that is always top earner got it again because Mako doesn't like Benny.
gotcha. I forgot that he didn't like Benny. Interesting. So basically the Bad Batch are trying to convince Benny, like they're saying, this is our ship, we're gonna take it, basically whether you like it or not. And they're trying to convince Benny to lower down the like shields and whatnot so that they can actually leave. It's like there's a barrier that they can't get through. And so they kind of convince him, but he tells them, it's going to be suspicious if I go by myself, so I should probably take Omega with me. That way they kind of blend in a little bit more with all the different kids. And what happens is that when they split and Benny and Omega go to this little office area, he pushes an extra button while they're in there, and Omega doesn't see it. And if you're not watching carefully, you probably missed it as well. I think Sarah like looked down at her phone for one split second and then missed it. That's how quick it was because she was wondering like, what happened? There's this little green button on the wall that he pushed. And so he's doing, what Omega thinks he's supposed to be doing, but really he's just killing time so that Mako and this group can come take Omega and maybe impress him even more. And turns out Mako does gather them together. And a little while later, Mako surrounds the Bad Batch with his groups. And we get an interesting scene. It really reminded me of The Force Awakens when Kylo and Han Solo were on a big long bridge because it was like a standoff between Mako's group and the Bad Batch, and then Mako had a droid holding Omega up top on a different bridge that was like broken and was like holding her like as if you do one thing and that droid's gonna drop her into this massive vent. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the vent goes off every so often, and that's actually how they got in. Not super big to the story though. Let's see. Oh, and the Bad Batch can't shoot their way out because Ipsium is very, very explosive. So they can't necessarily, try to shoot Mako's group. I don't really think they would want to either, being that they're a bunch of kids, but the droids they could take out, I suppose. And what happens is that it gets out that the Ipsium isn't as bad as Mako has been leading the kids to believe. It's not defective. It's worth a lot more money than he's been telling them. And so basically all his workers turn on him. And the droid drops Omega. And we get this cool little Tarzan / George of the Jungle moment of Hunter saving her, like shoots a little rappel thing and then swings to save her just in time. And then somehow Mako like loses his balance and falls over the edge. He holds on for a quick second with his cane and then falls to his doom. He kind of had a quick and I would say not so meaningful death. Quick and easy, I suppose. And so the Bad Batch, they get Omega back, which is great. And the kids and the employees and all them basically just kind of inherit this mine. And so then they can finally live with, the wealth that they're supposed to. And hopefully they will, start getting the food that they deserve. Bad Batch get their ship back. And the one thing that we kind of get as the character development at the end is that Omega is realizing that the Empire isn't the only enemy out there. There's many more people that are evil in the galaxy. But she's also reminded that there are more people just like them in the galaxy where they're trying to do better and they're trying to help those that face these evils. So we're building more and more on Omega's character. I think that's kind of the point of the show. So that's like the little piece that she got. Um, was there anything that I missed that you guys think was super important?
I think you covered pretty much all of it. Yeah.
I would just make one just small nitpicky correction.
Yeah,
The
sure.
children were definitely child slaves. They were not employees. They were,
Right.
yeah, I know. Just want to make that clear that we do not condone the actions of
No, absolutely not. Which is kind of funny because I was this is kind of a side note, but I know Tony has asked us on the show here a couple of times about like bad guys and how we view them because we like the Empire as opposed to the Rebels. I can tell you straight up, I didn't like Mako. Um, was not a fan of the character. Was not a fan of what he was doing. It's interesting to see like different types of bad guys, and some of them it's like absolutely not, and some of them it's like I can kind of sympathize, I suppose. Um,
Well, I mean, with this guy, we didn't get any backstory as to why he was what he was, and we didn't need one either. He was really just kind of a jerk. It wasn't it wasn't like the typical villains that you might enjoy watching where like they're scheming and they're plotting and there's lots of cool stuff going on and a lot of betrayal because this guy did something wrong and this guy he just hoarded all the food for himself from children. Like there's no redemption. There's nothing cool about that.
he wasn't really a smart guy either. He just kind of
Yeah,
seemed to be the strong guy in the room, kind of a thing.
yeah, exactly.
So I don't think Sarah has seen the species at all. Tony, do you remember maybe in the Clone Wars or anything if the species came out?
not that I can think of right off the top of my head.
Did you get the same vibe that he kind of looked like an orc?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see why you'd say that.
Gotcha. Yeah. I was like, is this a new species? Am I supposed to remember this? But I thought it was like a pretty big influence from that show or book series. So what did you guys think? Did you like the episode? Did you not like the episode? How are we feeling on the franchise or I don't know if I wouldn't call it a franchise, the series.
Part of the franchise.
Yeah.
Star Wars is the franchise.
How do we feel on the series with this one?
Go ahead, Tony.
Oh, okay. I feel very similar to the last time I was on the channel. I'm finding this show fun, and entertaining. And again, my son watched it with me and all that. And, that was nice bonding. Um, what I and by the way, partially just because of how I view this episode and the one before it, and because I wasn't here for the last review, I'm thinking of the last two episodes kind of together. Um, I what really struck me with these episodes is that I've mentioned on here before, and any good Star Wars fan knows that Star Wars takes heavy influence from westerns and samurai films,
Mm-hmm.
but they also take heavy influence from like 1920s, 30s, 40s sci-fi shows, like your Flash Gordons and Buck Rogers and all that stuff. And I really got like a pulpy space adventure vibe from these last two episodes. Like you have the clear cut, good guys, bad guys, fairly simple plot. You want the good guys to win, et cetera, et cetera. And you have some heart in there with saving the children and all that stuff. So I'm always down for some good pulpy fun. I've said on here before, not everything in Star Wars needs to be Andor. The deep, gritty, grounded character focus dramas. You can have like the pulpy fun, space adventure things too. It's all good. Um, so yeah, I still liked it. I'm still digging the show. Overall, I've liked some episodes better than others, but overall, I still look forward to watching it every week. And I'm sure watching it with my son is part of it. But still, I enjoyed it. And I thought it was a good 40 minutes with both episodes together, or an hour or whatever, of pulpy Star Wars fun. So I'm digging it.
So one thing we kind of talked about last week, just because you were talking about the two combined, is that the first one seemed to have a heavy Lion King pull to it with the whole
Yes.
Stampede thing. I forgot to even try to see if maybe this episode has some sort of influence from other movies that were like straight out of movies. Did you guys think of anything like that? I guess aside from The Force Awakens, where it kind of looked like the bridge scene.
I'm sure there's other films where there's somebody hoarding all the goods from the hard labor of the workers and stuff.
Yeah.
But a
It's a pretty
specific one
common.
that was like a direct parallel to this, I'm not sure.
I will say the standoff at the bridge for some reason reminded me of Lord of the Rings, and they're in the mines of Moria,
Hmm.
and they're trying to escape, and Gandalf was defeated, taking down the Balrog. But yeah, I think Sarah's right that the whole like greedy slave driver hoarding the stuff from the workers is that's pretty common storytelling trope.
Yeah, I guess I think I was more or less wondering, like, because when they were doing that sequence that was very similar to The Lion King, it was almost like a shot for shot
Mm-hmm.
similarity. So that's more or less
Yeah.
what I was wondering. But yeah, I'm sure the story has been used plenty of other times.
Kind of gave me a pirate vibe of like Walk the Plank with Omega being over the edge and stuff.
I could see that. What did you think, Sarah?
I liked it. It was something different. It definitely was not what I was expecting, and that makes me a little nervous. And the reason why is because I was hoping for more um back and forth with Sid. Sid was not mentioned at all in this episode. So if she doesn't have some sort of, I'm going to say, penalty for not working hard enough or fast enough from the Bad Batch, there's got to be some sort of an encounter for it to really pay off what they talked about in the last episode and how she said it was going to take a few days and whatnot. And so if that kind of just gets brushed aside, then I don't see the point of them even calling for help in the last episode because it went nowhere.
Yeah, we do know that she's frustrated at the bare minimum. Like she's building more and more as these different missions aren't going perfect.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, on their part, meaning the Bad Batch, they did find their own way out, no thanks to Sid. And they did mine way more Ipsium than what Sid's mine had. So they kind of went above and beyond her expectations. It just took them, say, an extra day to get it done because, or 2, 3 days, however long they were there. Um, I'm more hoping the Bad Batch is frustrated with Sid because she left them behind.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we get some sort of I mean, I'm assuming that this is building a certain type of tension between the two of like the group and Sid. And with this being episode 10, we got to be heading towards some sort of ending arc, and I wouldn't be surprised if she has something to do with the last major arc, whether she sells them off to the Empire, um, or just does
That's
something.
high key what I hope happens. I have this feeling she's gonna eventually rat him out, and that would be, I think that would make a really good season finale
Yeah, same.
and kind of bridge into the next season.
I think we got 6 episodes left. I'm sure we're gonna see something else with Crosshair,
I would
whether
hope
it's
so.
whether it's a standalone or he comes back to the group in some way. But
What
I
do
don't.
you think happened to the lieutenant?
I,
Or
that's who I was just about to say too. I was wondering what's going to happen with Rampart more, or is his story done from uh, 2 episodes ago?
maybe he'll do what that one ginger haired guy did in Andor. I'm blanking on his name right now. Tony, can you help me out?
Ginger haired.
Red
The
haired.
the
Yeah.
the the guy that was like whiny and had the Star Wars toys and had to stay with his mom.
He wasn't redheaded. You're talking about Cyril.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. He had like brown, black hair.
besides the point. Um,
Okay.
that is who I'm talking about.
Okay.
PB Rampart is gonna do what he did if he's still alive and like go on his own and hire a bounty hunter to try and get these guys because he knows they're still alive and he's mad at the Emperor for throwing him under the bridge.
He was exposed, at least for what he did on Camino. I don't think he was exposed as far as Clone Force 99 still being a thing, so maybe.
Yeah, I could see that. That would be very Star Warsy, like tie up loose ends. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and in terms of this episode, it was all right. Um, I kind of got sidetracked there about what might happen next.
I know we're all excited for what happens at the end.
We had some good spots with Omega this time or this week around, with sharing her rations with Benny and stuff and just her pure-hearted goodness. Um, Even though it didn't really pay off a whole lot because he still turned her in. But that's, I guess, what happens when you're in a desperate situation like he was and just trying to think of whatever's best for you, especially because you're probably hungry.
Right. And, if the Bad Batch or any of them wasn't able to, take care of Mako, then he's going to want to be in the best position possible once they leave. So I could see that too.
Yeah.
I thought the episode was all right. I think Sarah and I are kind of getting in that fatigue, so to speak. Like it's a long show, it's a long series, and not getting as many of the little tidbits as we'd like to. Like I really enjoyed the 2 episodes with the Senate, which I don't think Sarah liked as much because it was political. um, but like stuff like that, I
So
really
was this
enjoyed.
episode.
If you focus on that part of it, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
greedy capitalists exploiting labor. That's very political.
I think it's because Tony has a heightened point of view than us in that respect. Because yes, I could see what you're saying, but it's not going to jump to political for me.
Okay.
But yeah, I
I'm
totally
out
get
there
it.
looking for that.
It's
What?
kind of what's that?
I said I'm not out there looking for that like I think Tony might be.
Oh, I mean, I'm not looking for it. It's just it clicks.
Yeah, there's a thing, where when these types of things appear on screen or he hears things, it's like right in his brain. That's what this is
Hmm.
because of his background. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of, in a way, maybe it's kind of like me where I'm like, hey, that sound effect was removed from a Star Wars film.
Yeah.
It makes me short circuit. Um, but yeah, I thought it was all right. I don't know why, but I felt like with him talking about Morak. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting his name.
Mako.
Mako. I'm sorry. It took me off guard a little bit that he looked so much like an orc. Um, I wouldn't say it completely pulled me out, but it felt funny. I don't know why, but um, it was really weird. And I don't know, it was an all right episode. I kind of anticipated the way it was going, what was going to happen. So I guess, like Tony says, it was fun, but I wouldn't say that it added a whole lot to Star Wars per se. Um,
I
just
could
kind of
use
getting
some
us
more
where we're
action
going.
and adventure.
What's that?
I could use some more action and adventure.
Yeah, I mean, we had to have a different type of action in this one because of the whole Ipsium threat. But yeah, I get that. Um, so yeah. Anything else you guys want to say about the episode?
I think I'm good.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, that was our talk about the 10th episode. I did look that up. So we are on episode 10 with this one. We got 6 more to go. And I think the finale is going to be a 2-parter. So we are looking forward to that. And hopefully, maybe some of the things that we talked about come to fruition, especially with the whole Sid thing. They are definitely, they started this series with them working with Sid. Something's got to be going on here, especially with their tensions going. So hoping to see some stuff with that. If you enjoyed this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you are notified when more of our videos drop. Not only are we covering the Bad Batch, but Mando comes out, well, technically this week, this coming week. It's so close. Wednesday, we get the big first episode of Mando, and I'm very, very excited to see him back in action. We also got Jedi Survivor coming up in April. So a lot of fun stuff coming. We got Star Wars Celebration coming in April. I have heard a rumor that they're not gonna stream it. So I'm hoping that is a false rumor and we actually get to watch some of that stuff and talk about it with you guys. So those are just some things to look forward to on the channel. So you make sure you turn on notifications, drops a like if you like the video, and drops a comment letting us know your thoughts on this week's episode. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.